So this is going to be my entire address of what happened between Usman Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes. So UFC legend Khabib Nurmagomedov has two cousins. One of them being Umar Nurmagomedov, who fought Merab a while back. He lost to Merab. Another one who is Usman Nurmagomedov, who fights in the PFL. Usman had a fight against an Irish fighter named Paul Hughes, and their fight was supposed to be the sequel to what happened between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor, and how great that fight was. And it was great. It was a great fight. Honestly, one of the greatest fights ever. Especially the build-up was one of the greatest build-ups to a fight ever. But the fight between Paul Hughes and Usman Nurmagomedov was not even close to what happened between Khabib and Conor. Not during the build-up, not in the fight, not after the fight. Nothing was as dramatic or as entertaining as what happened between Khabib and Conor. This is because of a plethora of reasons, but I'll just start with the very few ones. The fight itself was entertaining. It was a fun fight. Bit of a back and forth, but the judges did choose correctly. A lot of people will say it's a close fight. Paul Hughes had great moments. I mean, he was even able to put Usman in some trouble at certain points, but still, Usman had more output, the better grappling outcomes, so Usman got the judge's decision. But, again, still, it was an entertaining fight. What I want to also pinpoint is what happened afterwards. After the fight, the two guys basically made up. Paul Hughes was, of course, disappointed, but who wouldn't be if they're taking a fucking loss in a very big fight? But he made up with the Dagestani fan base and Dagestani fighters and Camp Khabib. Ultimately, he made up with them. Not that there was any beef between them to begin with. Like, there was some competitive beef, but besides that, there wasn't bad blood. There was no bad blood to begin with between Paul Hughes and Camp Khabib. The only thing that was questionable was Paul Hughes asking Conor McGregor to corner him at one point, but that whole thing was thrown out the minute Paul Hughes came to Usman Nurmagomedov and even told Khabib as well that he is nothing like Conor. So that just kind of severed a relationship between Paul Hughes and Conor McGregor to begin with. I was going to post a video about this whole thing a week ago, but my facts were kind of off. I just wanted to revisit it. What I originally said was I was very excited for this fight, and I felt like it was going to be an homage to what happened between Khabib and Conor. It was going to be entertaining. Ireland, Dagestan war, the blood feud continues. None of that. The only blood feud that involves Dagestan and Ireland is just Conor McGregor and Khabib's still standing blood feud. No other Irish fighter seems to be throwing shots at Dagestan, especially not Paul Hughes. Paul Hughes has also been invited to join Khabib and others in Dagestan and train with them and have fun with them and yada, yada, yada. So Paul Hughes is a friend of Dagestan now. He also is Irish, but still, nevertheless, a friend of Dagestan. He has severed his relationship with Conor. Conor has come to Twitter and said some things that I can't really repeat because some of it isn't exactly YouTube appropriate, but still Conor said a lot of degrading things about Paul Hughes. I'm not a fan of Conor, but it is weird that Paul asked Conor to corner him and then after the fight completely disowns Conor, but whatever happened is whatever happened. Ultimately, it was hyped up to be this whole Dagestan, Ireland, it's coming back type of movement. None of that panned out, all right? It was just two younger fighters. One happened to be Dagestani, one happened to be Irish. They met in the cage. The Dagestani won, and the Irish wants to be friends with everybody. And I could tell that before the fight. During the fight build-up, when they faced off, Paul Hughes said nothing. He said nothing. He didn't instigate anything. Even while Usman was welcoming some instigation, he even told Paul Hughes, "We can fight here. We can do it here," like many fighters would say. And Paul Hughes had no response. So I think Paul Hughes was trying to be friends with them from the beginning. He might have said the Conor thing to get clout and kind of get his name further out there, but I don't think Paul Hughes had any intention of, creating a long-lasting beef with the whole of Dagestan. I think that was never in the playbook for Paul Hughes. But still, it still was a great showing for Paul, even though he lost to Usman. His striking is really good. It's very smooth. It's very precise. It looks really nice, Usman didn't look as great as like Islam or Khabib did, but the grappling is there as it should be for any Dagestani fighter. So in the PFL, I'm sure he's going to reign for a while. I would like to see Usman and Paul run it back, just because I think Paul found some things he could do more of in a rematch. But Usman said in a recent media interview that Paul Hughes has a lot of work to do before challenging for a rematch. So I don't know what that pertains or what he means by that. But I think Paul Hughes deserves an immediate rematch, because even though Usman did rightfully win, I think he didn't win in a crazy ass margin where a rematch isn't warranted. I think Paul Hughes was still close. So I think Paul Hughes was close enough for a rematch to be had. And I think it would be interesting. And I'd have to think about if things would have ended differently. I could have gave you guys a prediction for this fight, but I wasn't really crazy about the fight to begin with. I was just kind of confused about the whole Dagestan versus Ireland 2 hype up, because I didn't see it in either fighter. Like, I didn't see the rage or the passion or the bad blood in either fighter. So, I think that was a one-time thing between Khabib and Conor, and now is no more, sadly. But there are other feuds that are starting to bubble up. Like, Ilya is starting to have some beef with Dagestan, and I think that could actually build up to be something where it's like Spain versus Dagestan, or like another European country that's like, beefing with the Russians. So that would be interesting, Even Georgian, because Merab beat Umar, and Ilya might move up and try to fight Islam, and who knows how that'll end. So maybe it's Georgia versus Dagestan. You never know. Either way, there are some fun blood feuds that are still going to boil up in the UFC. So we still got time to, or we've still got upcoming moments where we'll get to enjoy some true bad blood fights, But overall, again, not that big of a blood feud fight. Just kind of two young guys that happen to be from opposing sides of the fence that come together and fight, and now they're friends, and that's really it. Fairy tale ending. Whatever the fuck happens next is what happens next. But overall, you let me know what you think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But most importantly, subscribe. I love you guys, and I'll see you all in the next.